Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wiggins. So glad to have you on board. If you're joining us live, thank you. If you're joining us after the fact, if you're catching us on our YouTube channel after the live, let us know how we're doing. If you like the content that we deliver on a weekly basis, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course, do comment. We do appreciate the feedback and we do like the interaction. Well, tonight we're going to be talking about probably EMD's most famous, if not most successful locomotive that was ever to leave LaGrange, and that is the SD40-2. Now, it's a special night because we're not going to talk about just one release, but we're going to be talking about two releases. One that was originally announced in September of 2023, and then a follow up that was announced in January of 2024. But before going forward, let's go ahead and see who's joining us tonight on the live feed. I see Donnie is back. Good to see you again, Donnie. Anthony is here. Charles is here. Ronald. Mr. Jason is here. DG Model Works is here. I see Mark has also joined us. We've got about 83 folks joining us on the live feed, and we always appreciate you guys taking a little bit of time out of your schedule to spend some quality time with Athearn as we talk about these new items that are just delivering or have already been delivered to your hobby shops. So let's do one more round of shout outs. I see George, Ted, Canadian Locomotive Logistics is on board. Bob is here, Ronald, Inbox, and it looks like Michael has joined us as well as Dan LaDuke of the CSX Queso subdivision. So thank you for joining us once again. And keep in mind, I'm going to have two presentations tonight. Now, there was some questions before the broadcast of cut to the chase, where can I buy these and how much are they? So a couple of things to get out of the way before we get started. You can buy these products that you're going to see tonight at any authorized Athearn dealer. Now, most people pre-order these locomotives, so that doesn't necessarily mean that the locomotive that you see tonight may be available through your preferred retailer. You may have to do some shopping around if you didn't pre-order. As far as prices, everything that Athearn shows on their website, as well as their PDF announcements, those are retail. That is because we are a dealer network setup. That means that we're not going to undercut the dealer, and we want you to shop first at your preferred dealer. Now, that being said, also, if you look in tonight's video description below, you'll also see links to those original announcements, as well as links to our website. You, of course, can order direct if you like. However, we strongly suggest, if you want to save the most money, to purchase through your authorized Athearn dealer. Now, we'll do these presentations, and keep in mind, I do not see your comments or your questions when the presentation is rolling. So if you could, please be polite to those that are watching, and go ahead and wait for those questions when we have the Q&A time at the end. So without any further story or any further delays, let's go ahead and get started with another Train Tuesday. Now, this first batch that we're going to be talking about is from an announcement that was back in September of 2023. So it's been a little bit. Now, we are slowly still trying to get through that backlog of orders, and these have finally delivered. In fact, they started delivering earlier this month. So if you pre-ordered these, you're probably already enjoying your layout now. If not, and you see something that you would really like to add to your roster, you're going to want to contact your dealer immediate. So first up, we've got the Santa Fe. This is a 1979. This is an earlier production run. This has the SD40-2 as it's seen in its mid-production body. You'll notice that it's got the corrugated grills. And it's also, this was kind of exciting, this was newly tooled. We had never offered it before on the SD40-2. The 88-inch nose with unique Oscitrol flashing lights and red warning light. Now, this is something that will work in DCC. So if you get the economy equipped version, simply hitting the stop button on your controller will cause that lighting effect to work. These also come with small EMD front plows, Leslie 3-chime horns, cab AC, as you can see there, Sinclair antenna on stand, and a 4,000-gallon fuel tank, as well as HTC side frames. Now, we're offering 3 different road numbers for this 1979 SD40-2. And like all Athearn models, you can buy these already equipped with the Soundtrack's Economy decoder with sound, or you can get the sound decoder ready ones. Now, the sound decoder ready versions do not include speakers. You're going to need to furnish the speakers of your choice. That gives you a little bit more adaptability. So maybe you'd rather spring for a Tsunami versus an Economy and have a little bit more functions. You've got 8 functions versus the 6 with the Economy. And you can also fine tune to the speaker selection of your choice. Sticking around that same era, we've got the 1980 era Burlington Northern, also in 3 different road numbers. Now, these Cascade Green models are just absolutely stunning. I've already got one here on the layout that I'll show you later. These are based on a late production body with corrugated grills and the Q fans. These include the Weston Coolant Beacon, which again, if you have the Economy equipped version, that does function from the factory. These are equipped with an 88-inch nose with ratchet, small EMD front plow, Leslie 3-chime horn, firecracker antenna, large exhaust silencer, 4,000-gallon fuel tank, and HTC frames. And as you can see at the top there, you have a choice of 3 different road numbers. Now, we're staying predominantly in this same era of the late 70s, early 80s. And Conrail, of course, is one of those roads that gets a lot of requests. This is a 1977 era model. It includes the mid-production body with corrugated grills, an 88-inch nose with brake wheel, small weed cutter front plow, which was pretty common with Conrail locomotives, Leslie 3-chime horn, Sinclair antenna, Flexicoil side frames, and a 4,000-gallon fuel tank. Now, we've offered this model here in 3 different road numbers, and these were strong performers on Conrail. So if you're a Conrail modeler and you've got a layout that's big enough to justify this kind of mainline power, you're probably going to want to pick up all 3 road numbers. Again, we're staying in that same era of the late 70s, early 80s, but we've wandered a little bit out west. The next released is these 1978 era Kansas City Southern locomotives. These 2 are mid-production bodies with corrugated grills, and they have the Stratolite beacon, as you can see there. Now, again, that is going to be already workable if you buy the Economy equipped version. And this has got the pointed front rear rock plows, kind of a neat feature on these guys. And you'll also know this has got what a lot of rail fans call the snoot nose. It's a 123-inch nose with brake wheel. These are kind of unique looking models. I really like the way these turned out. The Leslie 5-chime horn, of course, and some other details that you're going to want to pick out include the firecracker antennas, the 4,000-gallon fuel tank, and the HTC side frames. So Kansas City Southern folks, you've been asking for these. You've got 2 different road numbers to choose from. Up next is Sioux Line, but we didn't just stop with one type or one era of Sioux Line. We've got 2 road numbers here for 1990 through 2005, more the modern Sioux Line. Up here, now both of these are gonna, or actually all 3 roads are gonna have some common details, including the firecracker antenna, the xenon strobe, again, Economy equipped, that comes working from the factory, Leslie 3-chime horn, and HTC side frames. There's some road number specific things that we don't normally see on Athearn locomotives. Generally, that's something that we would see on a Genesis locomotive. However, we bent the rules just a little bit on these because we wanted to help you Sioux Line modelers out. Starting with 6609, as seen on your screen, this is a late production body with corrugated grills and Q fans. It also has a late production dynamic brakes, large exhaust silencer. This is equipped with an 88-inch nose with brake wheel, front ditch lights, 3,600-gallon fuel tank, and large front plow. Now, it's not pictured, but its cousin unit, number 6613, is also a late production body with corrugated grills and Q fans. It also has the late production dynamic brakes, large exhaust silencer, 88-inch nose with brake wheel, front ditch lights, 3,600-gallon fuel tank, and large front plow. Very similar. And again, these are perfect for you guys that are modeling anywhere between 1990 to 2005. Now, if you're modeling the Sioux Line in an earlier era, don't worry, we do have one road number here for you. This is for 1974 to 1982. A little bit different adaptation of their logo, and it really stands out here. Now, this particular model, 781, is an early production body. So you'll notice it doesn't have the corrugated grills, it's got the wire grills. It's also a non-dynamic brake equipped locomotive with an 81-inch nose with ratchet, 3,200 gallon fuel tank, and front plow. So again, if you're modeling the earlier era of Sioux line of, they say, 1974 to 1982, we've got you equipped. And remember, all three of these do have the xenon strobe. If you buy the economy equipped versions, those will come standard from the factory in working condition. Now we're going to stay in the late 70s to the mid 80s, and this is one that's always requested. It's Union Pacific, of course. This has got some really unique features. Now, we're offering these in two different road numbers for this era, and these come as mid-production bodies with corrugated grills, extended range dynamic brakes, Leslie 3-chime horn on bracket, firecracker antenna. You have the xenon strobe again with the economy equipped versions. This has got another snoot nose at 116-inch nose with a brake wheel, 4,000 gallon fuel tank, large front plow, and HTC side frames. Two road numbers there for you guys, a fan of this era of Union Pacific, and you're definitely going to want to add these to your fleet. Now here's one that a lot of guys have been asking for a long time, and these were probably hands down the probably most requested out of the group, Wisconsin and Southern. Now we've got a couple of the here for you. These are, the first unit is 4009, and it's an era of 2004 to 2016. Now all three units that we're offering will have standard details, which include front and rear ditch lights, 4,000 gallon fuel tank, front plow, and HTC side frames. However, there are some differences between the models, and we'll go over them briefly. Now, 4009 that you see here is an early production body, so it has the wire grills versus the corrugated grills. Dynamic brakes, Nathan 5-chime horn, firecracker antenna. This one is equipped with the 81-inch nose with a ratchet style brake and rear weed cutter plow. 4050 is a mid-production body with a corrugated grill. Non-dynamic brakes, Nathan 3-chime horn, firecracker antenna, and it too has an 88-inch nose with brake wheel. But the one that everybody was really excited about was this one right here, 4070, in that unique 40-year anniversary paint scheme. This was probably one of the most anticipated locomotives out of the group. By now, if you pre-ordered one, I'm sure you're enjoying it on your layout. I've already seen some pictures on social media of these on folks working on their layouts. So thanks for sharing those. This is an early production body, so it's going to have the wire style radiator grills, dynamic brakes, Nathan 5-chime horn, firecracker antenna, and an 81-inch nose with a ratchet. So it's really interesting that all three units have slight differences to them, and we've pointed them out here for you. So Wisconsin and Southern fans, these are finally in stock. Missouri Pacific for 1974 to 1980. This is another one that's been really popular. These are all going to include early production body with the wire grills, non-dynamic brakes, Leslie 3-chime horn, firecracker antenna, 81-inch nose with ratchet style brake, 4,000 gallon fuel tank, front plow, and HTC side frames. We're offering two different road numbers for Missouri Pacific. So again, if you're a fan of the Screaming Eagle and Jenks Blue, you're going to want to go ahead and add these to your roster. Another railroad that's getting a lot of attention lately, and that is Louisville and Nashville. Louisville and Nashville, we're offering three different road numbers in this run. And these are all early production bodies, so they have the wire style grills. These also have extended range dynamic brakes, Nathan 3-chime horns, firecracker antenna. The nose is an 81-inch nose with ratchet style brake. Cab mounted gyro light, again, if you get the economy style setup. That will come equipped and working from the factory. 4,000-gallon fuel tank and HTC side frames. Again, 3 different road numbers for the much beloved L&N. And we've got the Reading and Northern. We're doing 2 different road numbers for the Reading and Northern in their standard paint scheme. These are as they appear. This is probably, along with the Wisconsin and Southern, the more modern locomotives that we're offering in this run, 2010 to 2020. These are both mid-production bodies, so they have corrugated grills. These do have front and rear mounted ditch lights, and yes, they are programmed from the factory. If you get the economy version, they are programmed from the factory to alternately flash when the horn button is pressed. Extended range dynamic brakes, Leslie 5-chime horn, Sinclair antenna. They all feature 88-inch noses with brake wheels, 4,000-gallon fuel tanks, large front plow, and HTC side frames. So that's the first run that is now being delivered to your Athearn dealer. And we originally announced these back in September of 2023. Now let's talk about a few additional SD40-2s that we announced in January of 2024, and they too are now available. And we're going to start with 2005 era Norfolk Southern. If you're a Norfolk Southern fan of the mid-2000s, what's not to love? These were really cool. I actually had the opportunity to see a lot of these still in service right here in Illinois, and they were always a lot of fun to rail fan. Now, these were former Southern units, and after 1982, this Southern and Norfolk Western merger into, of course, Norfolk Southern. Now, the SD40-2 remained a principal mainline locomotive for the road. Earlier repaints of these units lacked frame striping. So beginning in 2003, these units could be found with early broken frame striping, as you see on this release. I did have the fortune to actually get to see a lot of these in service. I'm just going to have to someday go through all of my stack of Kodachrome and digitize them to see if I got any of these particular units. So a little bit of background on these and some details. And there's actually more details to these locomotives. You can see all of the details on the PDF announcement that will be linked in this video. But some of the highlights include former Southern units, high short hood, bell mounted on long hood, breakaway style end handrails, Nathan P5 horn on each end, long hood forward operation, Southern or SOU is spelled out on the cab, 2 firecracker antennas, 4,000-gallon fuel tank, front and rear plow, and yes, flashing front and rear ditch lights with horn activation. Now, these are only included with the economy versions. We've got 3 different road numbers on here, and I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see some reviews on these here pretty soon. Some have been sent out to reviewers. When those videos are available, we'll go ahead and share those with you. Now, if you're more of a 2000s era modeler and you're looking for some relief for your short line, you need go no further than to look to Helm Leasing Corporation. And for this run, we actually offered 3 different Helm Leasing Corporation locomotives. And these are just stunning locomotives out of the box. And with a little bit more weathering and a little bit more detailing, you can have a really great helper unit on your short line, or even your class 1 that may be experiencing a shortage in power. The first one that we've got here is 6210. Now, Helm Financial is the largest independent locomotive and railcar leasing company in North America. Helm rosters a variety of 4 and 6 axle EMD locomotives, which can be seen in use across the continent, which means it doesn't matter if you model BNSF or CSX, you can justify adding 1 or more of these to your roster as, well, added power. Now, 6210 has an extended range dynamic brakes, Sinclair antenna, Leslie 5-chime horn, and an 88-inch nose with brake wheel. Now, all 3 that I'll be showing you will have some standard features that are go across the board on all 3 locomotives, included mid-production body with corrugated grills, front ditch lights, 4,000-gallon fuel tank, HTC side frames, and a front plow. Up next is Helm Leasing Corporation's 6236. Really cool looking locomotive. Again, mid-2000s, so if you're modeling the mid-2000s, you can definitely add one of these to your roster. This one is going to include extended range dynamic brakes, firecracker antenna, Nathan 5-chime horn, and a 116-inch nose with brake wheel. And last but not least, but part of the Prime for Grime, and I absolutely love this unit, this is number 8070. You can probably figure out its lineage. It's not too hard to figure that out, but it has definitely lost that nice cascade green. It's really faded almost to a mint green. The black has turned into almost a driftwood gray. This has seen some service. It's been patched together quickly and put back into rental service. And this is going to include dynamic brakes, firecracker antenna, Nathan 3-chime horn, and this one has an 88-inch nose with headlight and ratchet. Really cool. We'll actually probably see one of these here on the layout in just a little bit. So here's another one that it was really, we got a lot of comments, a lot of product requests for this one. We have offered the Oneida and Western in the past. However, you guys wanted more, and there's a lot of fans of the Oneida Western. This is a 1979 era look. These two models that we're offering have mid-production body with corrugated grills, cab-mounted gyro light, nose-mounted headlight, extended range dynamic brakes, whip-style antenna, 4,000-gallon fuel tank, Leslie 5-chime horn, an 88-inch nose with brake wheel, and MU hose trays. Lots of neat details for these, and keep in mind, it's been a bit since we've talked about them, but in the future, we're going to be delivering Oneida and Western Athearn Genesis CA11 cabooses. So between the SD40-2s that we've offered for this line in the past, as well as the ones that are in stock now, plus we've done various freight cars, and we will also be releasing a CA11 Genesis caboose. You can actually make up a whole freight train just for the Oneida and Western. Again, 1979 era and 2 additional road numbers to add to your fleet. And we weren't done with Reading and Northern. This is a 2023 look for the Reading and Northern, a little bit different than what we saw earlier. Now, a little bit of background on this. Now, while wearing a black paint scheme, Reading and Northern 3062 entered the West Cressona, PA paint shop back on August 7th of 2023. It then emerged on September 15th, 2023 as RBMN 1983. Now it's decorated in a paint scheme that celebrates the 40th anniversary of the Reading and Northern Railroad. The locomotive is a tribute to the first days of railroad operation back in 1983, when the railroad was originally named the Blue Mountain and Reading, which operated 13 miles of track from Temple, PA to Hamburg, Pennsylvania. And today the RBMN operates over 400 miles of track in 9 counties. This former Burlington Northern and former Norfolk Southern unit features the original BM and R Herald on the nose, as you can see there, and the original blue color that was used by the first Blue Mountain and Reading diesel units in 1983. Now, this is a color that I'll warn you is very controversial with a lot of fans. Why is that? Well, the problem with this color is the shade of blue that they used was supposed to kind of depict the mountain colors in the early morning. The problem with this color is it looks either purple in certain lighting, or it looks like a dark blue in other lighting, and sometimes it just looks like a dusty blue color. It's a real hard color to photograph. Rest assured, though, our product developer who worked on this model did extensive research, and a lot of research, not to mention that he's from the area. And I can assure you that these colors are as close as we can get for the model. It was interesting to hear everybody's commentary on the colors, but again, keep in mind this locomotive, even on your layout, the color hue may shift a little bit depending if you have LED lighting, natural lighting, or even old fluorescent lighting. It's a really strange color that can really color shift very easily. Now, this locomotive is filled with details and features, including flashing front and rear ditch lights with horn activation, again with the economy equipped version. This is a mid-production body, so it has the corrugated grills, dynamic brakes, Sinclair antenna, 4,000-gallon fuel tank, HTC side frames, Nathan 3-chime horn, 88-inch nose with ratchet-style brake, and front plow. So there you have it. If you're a Reading and Northern fan, we've got 3 different locomotives that you can add to your roster. So let's talk about some of the features. Now, these are Athearn models, so they're not going to have the level of detail that a Genesis model would have. However, the SD40-2s really do pack in a lot of detail. So with minimum effort, you could really bring this up to a Genesis class model if you wanted to. These do include fine scale handrails, separately applied air tanks, brake wheel or ratchet brake nose per the prototype. And keep in mind too, there are different lengths of noses. Just as EMD had done on the full scale prototype, we have done that with the model, and that matches the prototype. Individually applied wire form wire grabs, see-through cab windows, detailed fuel tank per the prototype, see-through radiator brake and radiator fans. And here's one for you too. Even though this is a 6-axle locomotive, minimum radius on these is 18 inches, and I can verify that. I've run both of the ones that I have here on my layout, which is a very tight 18-inch radius curve. However, I will say these perform and look a lot better on a radius of 22 inches or more. So if you can, if you really want one of these and your minimum radius is 18 inches, they will work. They don't have any problem with it. It looks a little odd, but 22 really is the best place to have these on. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the prototypes, or one of the models actually, we have here in the studio. And let's see. All right, so here is 8102. This is one of the 3 Burlington Northern units. I have the sound off just for practical reasons. Now this one is equipped with the Economy sound decoder by Soundtracks. And you're going to have your lighting features like you would have. Now keep in mind, this is an early 1980s model, so it's not going to have ditch lights. They didn't have those ditch lights until later in its career. But we do, of course, have a headlight. And the headlight, in this case, is on the cab. Now these do come with the beacon, as you can see on the top, and that is function number 6. You get that great flashing beacon. Let's zoom in a little bit here for you. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the Athearn-based locomotives, they don't have a detailed cab interior. That's a Genesis item. However, there's been a lot of guys that have gone out there and done some great work adding a detailed interior to their models. So if you want to get an economical SD40-2 and put a little bit of time by putting some more details in it, you can certainly do that. And a lot of guys do like to buy the units that are DCC ready. That way they can add the sound decoder of their choice, the speaker of their choice. They can fine tune their model as they like, and then they can go ahead and detail it and weather it. Now, one of the things I do like about these SD40-2s is they do have the wire grab irons already installed. If you look carefully here on the nose, you can see that fine detail is right there. One thing that isn't included though is there's no lift rings, but if you look carefully on the model, you'll see the dimples are there. So if you feel competent enough to use a number 80 drill bit and use an aftermarket company's detail parts with lift rings, it's a real easy process to put those in. We've done some of the hard work for you though, like the rear fan grab iron is already installed. Of course, all those other grab irons are installed. And a lot of the details that are specific to that prototype, such as the firecracker antenna or the beacon or the placement of the bell, that's already there done for you. Minimum amount of work, and you can get one of these locomotives right where you want them to be. So you can see I've got my lease unit, my helm leasing unit right there on the 18-inch curve. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move him forward because we want to get him a detailed look. Now, keep in mind what the Burlington Northern unit looked like new and fresh in 1980. And let's see what that unit would roughly look like as a helm unit years later. So we're going to go ahead and move him forward. Now, again, if you're like me and you're modeling the late 90s into the early 2000s, well, one of these helm leasing units might be a great addition to the layout. You can certainly justify it because these locomotives were used all over the United States and Canada for practical reasons of helping out with a power shortage, which BNSF did have in the late 90s, early 2000s. Okay, I got him into position now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the helm leasing. So the beauty of the helm leasing is all that weathering that's already been started is all ready for you. It's all faded out. I'm going to move it up just a little bit closer so you can see it. The beauty of this is that Cascade green is all weathered out. You can see it's a lot lighter. You can also see that the black, it's still kind of black, but it's really washed out. Look, check out the horn. The horn is still in primer. And if you look carefully on the cab, you can see where, you know, the BN was masked out. There's a slightly different shade of green that was patched over. We've got our new reporting marks here. And even the original road number 8070, if you look at it, it's not that white anymore. It's kind of a dirty white. The other thing that we started doing within the past year is you'll notice that our prime for grime units in the past where the colors were slightly muted, they were not dead flat. These are now dead flat. What that means is for you as the modeler, if you want to do some further weathering, which most of us really do, then you can easily do that. Now, lighting effects on this, of course, we've got our headlight. You'll notice that the headlight is mounted in the nose. That was a common practice for BN and later BNSF years later. We also do have ditch lights on this. It's function number 5 from the factory. Now, since this is a Western prototype, it does not have the alternating flashing ditch lights. That is pretty much reserved for a lot of East Coast railroads. But again, this is a great starting point for you modern-ish modelers. You can add this to your roster, give it a little bit more weathering, and it just looks great doing its job on the layout. This is one that if you didn't pre-order, I'm probably going to be willing to bet they're going to sell out quick. We did have these at Amherst on display, and a lot of folks really did appreciate the detail. So with that, let's go ahead and take some time to answer some questions. I know we went a little bit longer tonight because we've got 2 different announcements we're working on that have just been delivered, but let's go ahead and see what kind of questions you have. Randall, actually, I did know that since I'm a huge BN fan, but many people might not know that. The SD40-2's BN used for the Powder River Basin coal trains were slightly different than the standard model. They used taller gear ratios to make them pull harder. Absolutely correct. I've read that in many of my books. Let's see what other questions that we might have. Let's see what else we've got. Getting some comments that YouTube is failing us, and I apologize for that. I'm not sure why. I'm looking at my StreamYard indicator here, and it says that YouTube is functioning properly. So that might be on your end. It doesn't appear to be on our end. Keep in mind, though, that it will populate our YouTube video. So if for some reason you can't catch the live right now, you can catch it later on our YouTube. It goes directly into the library after this broadcast. All right, let's see what other questions we've got here. Terry's saying you really hit it out of the park with these SD40-2s. Thank you. That was basically because our product developers listen to emails that you send through the Athearn product suggestion email. Also, we do surveys. Those surveys do help us in what we are going to produce next. And we really do pay attention to those. Now, be on the lookout. There's going to be a survey coming out soon. It's our annual survey. The first survey is going to be about product. And rather than have a bunch of questions at one time, we wanted to keep the surveys a little bit brief. So we're going to start the first one with product. And then we're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about how you get your information. So we're going to be sending smaller surveys throughout the year. Be looking for that product survey in the next week or so. Charles wants to know if we can get some undeck SD40-2s. We have offered close to SD40-2s. We've offered SD40s, 38s, even the tunnel motors in undeck. It's a possibility that in the future, if there's enough demand for it, that we would offer those in undeck. Southpaw, I'm not sure what happened there, but we actually had those available again at the beginning of the year. We actually announced that we were reopening those. There were apparently some problems with some pre-orders. So some folks that had originally pre-ordered just plain didn't get theirs. And so we wanted to make it available to those that missed out or their orders were canceled for some reason. We wanted to make sure everybody got what they wanted. Now, those pre-orders closed about a month ago. You can probably contact a hobby shop of your choice and see if they ordered above pre-orders. I'm sure they did. That is a very popular unit. So do some calling around to see if you can get that military unit. Here's one from Canadian Locomotive Logistics. If you have time to answer it, I'd like to know the difference between having an Economy decoder pre-installed or a Tsunami 2 decoder. What additional functions do I get? It's really about lighting effects. The lighting effects on a Tsunami 2 generally is you're going to have 8 functions, whereas with an Economy, you only have 6. Also, you definitely have a little bit more range and sound. And to me, just by my basic ears, the Tsunamis sound slightly better, but that's just a personal opinion and doesn't reflect what your opinion may be. One of the things that we try to do at Athearn is we try to make locomotives for everyone. And while Genesis is top tier, that means that they're equipped with the option of DCC ready or the Tsunami 2 equipped versions. With Athearn being the mid tier, which is generally where most modelers tend to be. We sell more Athearn, we sell more Athearn freight cars than all the other lines. And since those are a mid tier, we're using the Economy. Now, we do find that there's a pretty good split between sales and both the DCC ready as well as the Economy versions. And that's probably because there are a lot of loyal fans of the SD40-2s that we've been producing for a number of years. And they like the Tsunami 2, or they generally like another sound decoder and they put those in there. Now, I did see a comment or a question earlier asking if there's a weight in the non-sound versions that is removed to put the speaker in, and the answer to that is yes. DCC ready will have a small weight where that speaker would be. That's usually removed, and then you can add the speaker enclosure of your choice. Let's see. Good question from Anthony. He says, Jim, those lease units look great. We'll be picking up Conrail, Norfolk Southern, and BN. Jim, what details are not on those models? So remember that the Genesis locomotives have all the details based on the prototype. The prototype locomotive had certain details, then the model will have them as well. With Athearn, it's a more generic approach, and we do that to keep the costs down. We do realize that most people in model railroading are modelers, and they don't have a problem with getting their fingers dirty when they are working with their models. The Athearn models will include some of the harder things like the grab irons and things of that nature. But if you look carefully, you'll notice they don't have the MU hoses, the cut levers. A lot of pilot detail is missing. Think of the pilots as a blank slate for you to add the details of your choice on. Also, things like the lift rings. Now, while the dimples are there, it can be easily added. You can find those dimples on top of the hoods and drill those out with a number 80 drill bit and add the details of your choice, in this case, the lift rings. Some of the harder details are already included. The one big thing that you're going to be missing out as far as details is you're not going to have the interior. Genesis locomotives have a full interior, which is really cool. But don't worry, there are aftermarket companies that provide kits so you can add an interior detail to your SD40-2 or any Athearn model for that reason. So if you're somebody that's budget minded, and let's face it, everything's getting more and more expensive as we talk. If you've got some time to sit down at the workbench and do some additional details and make that locomotive truly your own, you can do that with an Athearn model, and you can detail it and set it up exactly the way you want. In fact, I highly recommend anybody watching this go to the Soundtracks YouTube channel and look up George's. He's got a multi video on how he's upgraded one of his Missouri Pacific SD40-2s, which is an Athearn model. He's done a lot of work on it, and it's a really fun video to watch, and it would probably encourage you to do the same. Let's see what else. We've got some people asking for stuff they want produced. Let me remind you, the best place to do that is to go ahead and send us an email. You can send us your product suggestions at the email right here, Athearn Product Suggestions at athearn.com. That's Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. Now, just because you send us an email doesn't always mean that we guarantee we're going to produce that particular model. There are a lot of things that go into producing new models. One, of course, is if we have the option, sales performance from previous versions. Also, what kind of a demand are we getting? Are we getting a large demand like we do for Southern Railway and L&N models, or just a few for name the railroad of your choice? Since we are a business, we do have to make smart decisions on what we are going to produce, but by all means, please send us your email suggestions at the address indicated on the screen. Let's see what else we've got. I got Mr. David Reynolds is falling asleep, so we should probably wrap this up and let him get back to working on his layout. What else do we have here? I will do one or two more questions, and then I will move on. Hey, Jim, give us a hint for the new announcements for February and March. By the way, when will we see F59 and P42s? So the new announcements will be coming out. We're only about 2 weeks away, February 27th. Everything that we've talked about for pre-orders ends, so get your pre-orders in. But on February 27th, we go live with all new announcements. And I will say that we've got an all new model that we're going to be announcing. Now, it's not quite all new because we have talked about it briefly. We talked about it at the Railroad Hobby Show in Springfield, Massachusetts last month. And also look for an upcoming live where Janet Bringle and I will be talking about this new model, talking about the ARLX reefers. These are beautiful models. And if you're a fan of the transition era, you're probably going to want to add these to your roster. That's one of the things you're probably going to see in the new announcements. And as always, Athearn product development has really picked out some great locomotives. I can guarantee you this much: it doesn't matter what era you model, the March, April packet is going to have something for everyone. All right. Charles Nelson, we're going to end with your question. Is there a time to get pre-orders for undeck SD40-2s in this run? Well, we're not. This run has already been produced. Everything that I showed you tonight, those have already been produced. The factory is on to the next project. So you're not going to get SD40-2s and undeck in this run. However, that email that I put across the screen, the Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com, all of you folks that would like to see these in a future run in undeck, please go ahead and send us an email. Let us know that it's safe for us to produce those so that we can sell them. All right. No, sorry, Gunnar. The F59 and P42s, you were asking about those as well. We are waiting on some electronics for the F59s. They are delayed, unfortunately, and unfortunately because I am waiting, or I'm sorry, Athearn is waiting for electronics. We don't have a firm date yet. As far as P42s, last I heard from Athearn Product Development, they are undergoing some refinements. They're hoping to have some updates for us later this year. So unfortunately, I don't have good news for you as far as ETAs. I'm trying to give you as much information as I can as I get it from the factory and our purchasing department. Well, I want to thank all of you for helping us having another great Train Tuesday. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, working on the layout and hanging out with me and talking about these SD40-2s. Again, if you pre-ordered these, you're probably enjoying them on your layout like I am. If not, well, contact the Athearn dealer of your choice and see if you can grab one or more of these locomotives. Until next time, everyone, I want everyone out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, and above all, high greens. Take care, everyone.